can start now. Countdown from 10.
Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Howard Bernstein. This Monday morning, it is 8:20, just about 8:21 that we're starting this. And if you're watching this on a recording, just want to let you know when this happened. Talking about this mess of weather we're having to start the week. We've got a cold rain for points south of D.C. D.C. probably cold rain, maybe a little snow, sleet mixed in. And then north and west, we're going to have that threat of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. And far enough north and west, it'll be a problem. Even not too far away, we could have some slick spots in upper Montgomery and Loudoun, maybe even parts of western Fairfax, northern Fauquier County, Howard County, more so toward I-70 than I-95. These are the places that are traditionally colder because they're farther away from the ocean and a little bit higher in elevation. So when we have these borderline events where it's not a clear cut, yeah, those normally north and west of D.C. and Baltimore is favored more for the wintry types of weather than what we're seeing. Let me show you here. I'm going to switch over to the weather computer, and I will also take your questions as I try to check out what's going on Facebook. But I'm going to start with a look at the snow and the sleet potential here, as we are looking at the threat of that wintry weather. We're talking about maybe a trace to an inch is what I'm thinking now from D.C. north through much of Montgomery and Loudoun, closer to the inch when you get north of Gaithersburg up toward maybe Germantown, Damascus. Hi, Adam. Hey, George. Good morning, guys. Those areas have a better chance of seeing the inch of snow and sleet. I think it's going to be snow and sleet. Now, some of the models, and I'll show you this in a moment, well, we have sound. You know, Katrina says no sound. Fine, we'll do a quick check. If anybody else can hear me, just tell Katrina we'd likely have audio. We should have audio. So if you can't hear me, let me know, other than Katrina. If you can, let Katrina know so she can make whatever adjustment she needs to on her computer. So thank you for that. All right, let's keep going on with the weather computer here. And I'll get back to the questions and comments. I'm going 1 to 3 up in the mountains, Frederick, Martinsburg, Winchester North. You know, I guess Strasburg or down in the Shenandoah Valley, if enough cold air is there, we could get 1 to 2. But I'm really thinking that 2 to 3 would be either near the Pennsylvania border, north of Frederick, Hagerstown, and into the mountains. And my concern is not so much the snow and sleet as it is the freezing rain that is also a threat for those areas north and west. Let's look at a couple of things first. When we're making a snowfall forecast, we look at a lot of things. We look at, you know, what does the atmosphere look like? Is it cold enough to support all snow? And if it isn't, how long is it going to snow? And then we look at some of the different model solutions. Obviously, the NAM at 3.4 is the outlier, and it seems to be wetter and colder. So I discount that when I'm seeing many, many models going with half an inch or less, give or take, right? None to 6/10. So that's why I think D.C. may be just a coating. Now, when we get up toward Frederick and Hagerstown, you know, now we're thinking that 1 to 2 inch. Again, I'm going to discount the NAM's 4.4. And I have confirmation, by the way, from somebody at the station that we do have sound. So if you're not hearing me, well, she can't hear me say that. It's got to be her computer. Let's go over toward looking at Hagerstown. Again, you know, 1 to 2, outside chance of 3, but I'm thinking the NAM is overdoing it. With that said, the National Weather Service has issued winter weather advisories east of the Blue Ridge. That includes Howard, Montgomery, Loudoun, Frederick, northern Fauquier, up through northern Maryland, and those areas from 4 p.m. until 10 a.m. Tuesday. West of the Blue Ridge, it's 1 p.m. to 7 a.m. And in the counties in white and the Blue Ridge, so when you get into the mountains of western Maryland and West Virginia, not the Panhandle, but west of there toward Romney and Petersburg, then you're talking the winter storm warnings. I do have some doubts, though, over to the Canaan Valley and western Garrett County, because I think enough warm air may come in and they may go over to plain rain, but east of the Continental Divide, the eastern Continental Divide, not the one in the Rockies, the one that separates the watershed from the Chesapeake Bay to the Mississippi River, those areas, the cold air could get trapped. So the Weather Service officially from 3 inches of snow to 4/10 of an inch of ice. There could be more than half an inch of ice in a few spots, and that concerns me. And this is what I'm looking at. Again, this is computer output, not the gospel, but I'm going to show you a few of these. And even though it goes to 8 o'clock Wednesday, you know, for all practical purposes, this is really this afternoon until 9, 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Those orangey areas, right? Even a little red on the Blue Ridge. Red is 3/4 of an inch or more. Orange is half an inch or more. So we've got some orange showing up. But still, when you get above a 1/4 inch, now we're talking about problems with branches coming down and power lines being issued, not just the slick driving conditions, but the power, right? So we'll show you a couple of different ones. The European model, and that has, again, Romney, Petersburg, southern Garrett County, and toward West Virginia there, east of Davis. that's 3/4 of an inch to an inch in that one little bullseye. Again, I think it's overdone, but if you notice, all these ice potentials that I'm showing you are pretty much in the same areas, right? The NAM's a little farther east, and 1/10 of an inch of ice in Washington seems to be way overdone, in my opinion. But again, I think it's running colder, hence the more snow, hence the more ice is what we're looking at there. And even the Canadian has crazy numbers of ice, right? South of Stanton, just going bonkers there with more than an inch. Okay, we'll take that with a grain of salt. But when you start to take everything in totality, then you get a picture of ice in the mountains, basically the worst of it west of I-81 and east of the Continental Divide, and that's the real concern. So that's why the winter storm warnings are up. We see the storm this morning at 8:25 producing some snow in central Illinois, but mostly rain. A little bit of ice also on the northern edge there in Indiana, right? Looks like between Terre Haute and Indianapolis, with a little rain just getting in toward the southwestern part of Virginia. Now the big system, boy, look at this storm. This is quite an impressive snowstorm out across Kansas and Nebraska. This is going to track west of us, and for us to get good snows in Washington, you want a storm tracking to the south and east, and that's just not going to be the case here. So showing you the futurecast, and I'm showing you the HRRR model, HRRR, if you want to look it up. This is one of the more aggressive ones, but I liked how it had initialized some of the early snow showers north this morning. We have some reports of freezing drizzle, by the way, from Bob in Damascus. Said it was 30 with freezing drizzle in Upper Montgomery, so there may be a little drizzle in the air right now. By lunchtime, it looks like we could have some snow potentially mixing in Garrett and Allegheny and the high country there in West Virginia, but mostly just light rain moving in with the heavier rains spreading toward us by mid-afternoon, especially Luray, Culpeper, Fredericksburg, those areas getting into some moderate to heavy rain. And notice how the temperatures actually drop off a bit. So the air is dry, so some of that initial moisture may be on radar but not reaching the ground. It'll be evaporating or sublimating if it's cold enough, and that's a cooling process. As we get down between the dew point and the temperature, it's called the wet bulb temperature, and that will cool the column, and it looks like we're going to have some snow northern Virginia, West Virginia, much of central and northern Maryland for a while. And the question is how long, and that's a very difficult one to answer. So do we have a rain-snow mix in Washington at 8:30 for a few hours tonight before going over to a cold rain overnight? I don't think we hold the 32. These are also the HRRR temps. When we have an easterly wind, it's coming in off the Atlantic, it's coming in off the Chesapeake, right? Well, those water temperatures are still in the 30s to around 40. So that in and of itself, unless the winds are very light, will be a warming breeze for us. And then we hold on to maybe a little bit of icing tomorrow morning to the north, and that finally starts to clear out some in the afternoon, especially west. Look at Luray and Harrisonburg tomorrow. It could be in the 50s, while we under the cloud deck may be stuck in the 30s. So quick look at your 3-day forecast. I'm going to go over to answer some questions now. It does look much nicer on Wednesday. Oh, did I not even put in, I meant to put in the, let me find it, because I want to talk about Thursday real quickly too. For those of you wondering about Thursday, that actually looked like a miss. It looks like that is not going to happen for us, and I'll show you the GFS and the European solutions on that real quickly. The GFS on Thursday now, notice it takes this system through southern West Virginia, southwestern Virginia, but way south, right? Low pressure by 4 a.m. Thursday is now well east of Hatteras. You see that little circle there of the isobars with the winds going around, that's the low, maybe a little snow in Norfolk and pulling away. So Thursday's a miss on the GFS, and the European as we get toward Thursday, and let me just advance it here. You can see Thursday morning, right, has a little bit of snow. Southern Maryland, the eastern shore, the northern neck at 7 a.m. D.C. is just too far north and west. And again, that low east of Hatteras pulling away. So, is there a little bit of light snow Thursday morning north and west, or is it a complete miss? At this point, if you're a snow lover, Elvis has left the building, so to speak, because D.C., and I'm a snow lover, so D.C. is Heartbreak City. Yeah, Michael, we try to stick with science here, not religion, no politics, none of that. We're gonna tend to avoid any of that. Let's keep it weather focused if we can. So let me see your questions. All right, as we look. No, La Plata looks like a rain event. How bad is it going to be for Martinsburg, West Virginia, says Bradley. And if there were some questions before that, I'll try to go back. Martinsburg could be very sloppy as far as snow, sleet, freezing rain tonight, really late today, tonight, and it'd be probably one of those situations. You guys, I know you're in a winter weather advisory, but if you even get, a 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch of ice on top of an inch of snow and sleet, anything that's not treated is going to be just an ice skating rink. So I don't think the power goes out with those sorts of ice numbers, but there are going to be a lot of slick spots for sure. So, all right. All right. Hey, Lori, thanks for giving that advice on the phone thing. Okay, Katrina can hear. Excellent. Everybody, I appreciate the group response for the audio issue. Hey, Joel, good to hear you. Let's look. Everybody can hear. Good. All right. Now I'm going back to questions since I've got about 10 or 15 minutes because we have Great Day Washington coming up at 9. So I've got a few minutes in the studio, but I want to specifically address your concerns now that we've gone over the weather setup. Again, Thursday looks like a miss. Yeah, sorry about that. Winchester, Amanda. Winchester is sort of on the border, that 1 to 2, and I was Winchester in the winter storm warning? I believe they were, where Martinsburg wasn't because of the snow and ice potential there. So Winchester itself, yeah, kind of like what I said for Martinsburg, an inch, give or take, of snow and sleet is what I'm thinking. Outside chance of 2, plus maybe a tenth to a quarter of an inch of freezing rain on top of that. So Winchester later today, tonight, into the first part of Tuesday is going to be a little sloppy. And probably one of those things where, yeah, if you can avoid going out, probably best not to. You know, I don't like telling people what to do. I'd rather tell you, what the conditions are. You're big boys and girls. You can make those decisions yourself. Alexandria is going to be mainly wet, in my opinion. Southern Maryland, get a bit of snow on Thursday. Arlene, cool your jets. Southern Maryland may get nothing on Thursday, right? GFS says it's a miss. Euro says maybe a little bit of light snow. So you might get something, but don't get too excited. I'd rather be pleasantly surprised as a snow lover than disappointed once again. That's how I'm looking at that for Southern Maryland. Yes, for Arlington, basically wet. Frederick, I think, could be quite dicey and icy, especially in the Catoctons. I don't know if you're in Frederick City itself, but even Frederick City can get an inch or 2 of snow and sleet with potentially, I think, up to a tenth or quarter inch of freezing rain on top of that. So there will be that glaze on top of the snow and sleet. And one thing about the NAM model, I believe, when we're looking at snow, it's actually snow and sleet. So let's say we have a 10-to-1 ratio and we expect 2/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent. That's 2 inches of snow. When it comes to sleet, it's maybe like a 0.2, 0.3 as opposed to a 10-to-1. So it's maybe a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1, excuse me. So another 2/10 of liquid could be half an inch of sleet versus 2 inches of snow. But the model, I believe, counts it all as snow. So that's why I think the NAMS numbers are elevated. I know we're getting a little bit into the weeds there. Strasburg and Culpeper have to traverse those today. You know what? I think they're mainly wet today. The earlier, the better. They could be turning a little bit of snow and sleet, and especially up towards Strasburg as we get into the mid and late afternoon. Although it is cold this morning. If it was doing some icing earlier, I mean, we don't have much warming going on. It's cloudy, so we're not going to heat up much today. And I didn't show you temperatures, but they're pretty much running in the low to mid 30s in the cool spots, near 40 down to like Pax River, Fredericksburg area. So a cold rain for Culpeper, but Strasburg, I'd try to get it done sooner than later just to be on the safe side. Lanham looks generally wet, maybe a little snow sleet mixing in, but I'm not as concerned, again, with those areas that are east of I-95, especially if they're south of Route 50. I don't have many concerns. It's possible parts of northern Anne Arundel, northern Prince George's do get some of that sleet, freezing rain with a little glaze, little coating, but I'm not as concerned. Gerardstown, West Virginia, yeah, same as everybody else. Well, maybe even a little worse up there with the icing potential. You guys are in the winter storm warning, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you got a quarter inch, maybe even outside chance doubling that of freezing rain on top of an inch or 2 of snow and sleet, it's going to be just a pain to clean up. The good news is tomorrow we should be in the upper 30s there, and Wednesday we should be in the 40s. So that should help greatly. But it's one of those things, I think, as I recall, when we have snow, sleet, then freezing rain, even though it's a pain, I generally wait for the precip to end before I shovel, as opposed to getting a clean driveway and then the freezing rain on top of that. I'd rather have the freezing rain on top of the snow, sleet base. Give me something to pick up and dig and not kill myself slipping and sliding. All right. Yeah, all right. As I said, OSAS, we don't do politics here. So just, do it somewhere else. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm just saying this is apolitical. So let's just keep it apolitical. Thank you. Georgetown's in Berkeley. Right. Thank you, Will. So yes. Oh, so you're in the winter weather advisory then. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys had a quarter inch of ice. You know, if you can hold on to the cold long enough, which this time of year, that cold can be very difficult to scour out. But it does look like the valleys west of you do have more cold than you. So, you know, that's sort of borderline of whether or not, I mean, there should have been a warning for the ice more so than the snow. So, hey, Cassie, good morning. Front Royal also, the ice is a concern on top of an inch, maybe 2 of snow and sleet. Quarter inch of ice, give or take, is what I'm thinking for Front Royal. And when we get above a quarter inch, that's when the weight of the ice is enough for larger branches, power lines, to start coming down and causing power issues. So that's why we don't do that. And so why isn't it an ice storm warning, you may be wondering? Well, the Weather Service is going away from certain, they've managed to shrink the number of advisories. Plus, when it's a mixed event with snow, sleet, freezing rain, they tend to go with a winter storm warning. Personally, I think if ice is the most threatening of the precipitation types, they should go with that. Call it an ice storm, even if there's snow and sleet, because that's the one that's going to kill people as opposed to the others. But, you know, it's just a different way of thinking about it. But, you know, don't worry so much about the classification of the storm as opposed to the message of there's a threat of freezing rain. Freezing rain on cold roads, you know, that aren't treated means, you know, deadly driving conditions. You make the decision at that point. Good morning from Culpeper. Is this coming to Michigan? No, Gene, this is staying south of you. You may get some lake effect in the cold air that's coming, but this system is coming from Missouri and Tennessee and Kentucky, sliding across I-40 and bringing that wintry mix to southern Pennsylvania, maybe central and southern Pennsylvania, more snow there with more of a mix down toward the D.C. region. And south of D.C. is mainly rain. So, no, this doesn't look like that. Haymarket, yeah, Haymarket's always on the edge as opposed to down toward I-95 in northern or western Prince William County. So Haymarket, I think you generally will be less than an inch of snow and sleet and probably not enough ice to cause problems. I'll admit, though, when you're talking about borderline temperatures and an event at night, and it's not like we have a ripping south wind to warm us up. So if we have an easterly wind at 5 to 10 or even an east-northeast wind at 5 to 10, temperatures could stay fairly static, fairly constant, and give you those issues. So good morning, Jessica. Just looking at any of the questions. Yeah, Will's got the freezing drizzle too. He's up in the Martinsburg region. So yes, there are a few spots now dealing with that. Let me go back to the graphics real quick and we will go over stuff, and then I am going to have to say peace out and get ready for the 9 o'clock show. So let me get back to the weather computer and we'll go over everything. In case anybody's joined us late, I want to just talk about the snow sleet potential that I'm thinking at the moment. I may change this. I drew this map at about 4 a.m., but I was thinking trace to an inch for the D.C. region north and west through Baltimore, through Fairfax, Prince William, Fauquier County, with the 1 inch being closer to the white, the 1 to 3, with the trace being closer to the nothing. And nothing south and east of town because that is generally going to be rain, a cold, raw, ugly. God, I hate cold rain. I hate cold rain. I'm a snow guy, so cold rain is just such, you're so close yet so far when you look at that. As far as the models for the snow amounts, the NAM, as I was explaining earlier, I think this is a combination of snow and sleet, but still I think it's overdone where you got a couple say nothing and the other two say 0.6. So we're not looking at much snow there, but when you get to the colder spots like Frederick, again, throw out the NAM, still anywhere from, you know, a coating to 2 inches, and Hagerstown is about the same. But there are going to be some areas in western Maryland and West Virginia in the mountains west of I-81 that potentially get closer to 2 or 3 inches, but also that quarter inch to half an inch of ice. And with that, there are your winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings. You've got the warnings in the mountains of western Maryland and West Virginia and the Blue Ridge, and Weather Service going up to 0.4 of an inch of ice. I personally think we could get some spots that exceed half an inch of ice. And that concerns me with power outages, not just the slick roads, and the winter weather advisories like for Montgomery, Loudoun, northern Fauquier, and Howard County, Frederick. Those areas in I-81, that's, you know, an inch outside chance of 2 of snow, as we talked about, Frederick, Hagerstown, and then the less than quarter inch of ice. And when you look at the models here, some have barely any ice in Montgomery and Loudoun County, but really reserve it north of I-70 and west of I-81, except for the Blue Ridge. where they're just bringing ice. And when you ever get ice above a 1/4 inch in some of these totals, some of those contours actually, when you see that orange-brown, yeah, that's 1/2 inch plus. So that's a problem. We saw it in Petersburg on 1. We see much heavier icing on the Maryland, West Virginia border there in southern Garrett County. We'll see, hopefully that doesn't happen, but even 6/10 in Romney would be very bad. Luray over, almost 4/10, not good. We got less ice again in Frederick. This is the NAM. Again, we talked about the NAM, I think, just overdoing the moisture, overdoing the ice. But, when you've got numbers like 1/3 to 6/10 of an inch, again, focused out in western Maryland and West Virginia, don't focus so much on the exact number, but the locations that these models are fairly consistent. Although the Canadian model with the 1 inch plus amounts, around Stanton, where 64 come into 81, I'm going to discount that to some extent. I'm focusing more on just where the totals were. Here's where the storm is at 8:40. That moisture into North Carolina, southwestern Virginia. Big picture, quite a snowstorm coming through Kansas. Look at that. You see that counterclockwise circulation coming out of Colorado in toward western Kansas, between Denver and Kansas City. There's the snow with the warm sector rain coming toward us, and we hold on to cold air. We get what's called cold air damming, with the cold air kind of being wedged up against the mountains. And with an easterly wind, you see that. Now for us, the upper levels are borderline, but we could have enough evaporative cooling to switch over to a little bit of snow, especially the northern half of the area for tonight for several hours. And this is where we could pick up that inch to 2, outside chance of 3 in some spots, with some sleet, freezing rain mixing in. But with an easterly push, this is where I'm having a difficulty with the modeling. The easterly push brings warmer air off the Atlantic and off the Chesapeake, but it's cooling temperatures because of some evaporative and dynamic cooling itself in the column. So it's borderline. This could be more rain and freezing rain than snow. So a very tough forecast, and tough for the models to resolve. And I could show you other models that aren't as snowy or icy as this as well. I'm just showing you this one right now with a little bit of lingering ice early on Tuesday, and by midday Tuesday things are starting to clear out. So just to show you, we're in much better shape here tomorrow afternoon and Wednesday for sure, with temps in the upper 40s. And Thursday's system, let me back this up here. Thursday's system on the GFS, you see it? It tries to squeeze out a little snow south of us, but it's a miss. It's a miss to the south and east. And then Sunday, we may start as a little snow in the morning, but go over to rain. So that's the GFS and the European. As we look at Thursday, tries to get a little snow, southern Maryland, the northern neck, the eastern shore, but the low still offshore North Carolina, just a little bit too far south and east for good snow for us. And then also on Sunday, now Sunday right now, it's trying to bring a little snow here and then maybe to mix in rain. So it's a little colder Sunday, but we'll ultimately see how this resolves as we go over time. Let me just take a last peek at your questions before I hang it up here for the morning. So hey, Michael, good to see you. Yeah, Thursday looks like a miss. All right. Yeah, no advertisements, Tom. I'm going to hide that comment too. You missed that time frame on Culpeper Front Royal. I think Culpeper Front Royal start late this morning with some light showers, but it really picks up by 2 or 3 o'clock in those areas. No, but 11, 12, there could be some lighter rain moving in. Yeah, that's what we do, Jen. We lie. That's all. I come here, I make stuff up. What do you mean we lie too much? Jen, we tell you what the models are showing and how we interpret that. But if you watch me, I don't know who you're watching, but I always try to say, hey, this is what the model says now, but we're 6 days out. We have to watch and see how the finer points come in. Yes, there was a threat, and there's going to be a storm, but we're talking a difference of 100 or 150 miles. So I actually wrote an article last Wednesday, right, 8 days in advance, talking about a possibility of a snow. I never said it was going to do for sure, but talking about the possibility of a snow 8 days in advance. So yes, and you saw we still have the storm on the map, but it's going to be, again, 100 to 200 miles a little farther south, and that's the difference between, being hammered and saying bye-bye, it's not going to happen. So appreciate the fact that 8 days out, it was on our radar, but we also know that if you golf at all, the golf analogy I like is very difficult to get a hole-in-one from the, when you're teeing off, right? You're in a par 4, par 5, But if you're, on the green, you might sink it in one. So as we get closer to an event, the details come into more focus, and yes, the accuracy does go up as far as exactly where. But, I won't say, calling me a liar is a little harsh, I think. Is activity staying below the I-80 corridor of western Pennsylvania? If you're above Pittsburgh, I don't think you see that much. I think most of the moisture is going to be down toward the turnpike, south of 22, if I'm mistaken, if I got my PA geography right. Or was it 22 or 220, whatever that one? No, 220 is north-south, 22. In those areas. So I do think it stays south. All right. Oy. The advertisements are just getting bad. All right. Well, we'll just take care of this stuff. Just any last thoughts here? Oy. Let me just take care of this this one person. All right. There we go. All right. So good. We've gotten rid of the spammer, at least for now. Hopefully he can't post anymore, but we'll see. Long range into early February temperatures. Actually, all right, Arlene, last question. February starts on a warm note, it looks like. Looks like the storm track will favor more snow out west and maybe out toward the Midwest, where we'll be on the warm side of the jet. So I had some temperatures in the long range looking to early February, 50s, maybe close to 60. So while we've got the cold, which has been good for the ski areas to make snow, they get snow, the overall, yeah. Yes, Priscilla, you were correct. Models are projections, and they give us good guidance. And we try to give you as much advance notice when there's a potential out there. We make a forecast, which is an educated guess. But ultimately, these things can and do change, especially when we're farther out. So, how's it looking for Cumberland? Cumberland looks like it could be an icy mess. So snow and sleet, especially Cumberland being in the valley, because I know from Frostburg down to Cumberland, what's the elevation difference? 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet? Huge difference. So Cumberland, you guys could get an ice storm out there. Maybe an inch or two of snow and sleet, and potentially up to half an inch of ice, in my opinion. Cumberland, LaVale, out toward, oh, God, what's that one? At the casino there, by the lake, the beautiful, Flintstone. And Winchester, not quite as much, but certainly maybe a quarter inch of ice up to that, with an inch outside chance of 2 of snow and sleet. All right, guys, I have to go. It's 8:48. We have a show coming up, Great Day Washington, at 9 a.m. I will have a full weathercast on that around 9:25. And if you are following me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, thank you very much. If not, I sure would appreciate a like and a follow. Stay safe, and we'll keep you updated here. Facebook, WUSA9.com, and the free WUSA9 app. Always good to throw on your smartphone. Have a great day, and I will see you a little bit later, and thanks for a little bit of your time this Monday morning.